Hi there, welcome to the Adirondack Centennial Railroad. The tape you're going to see will be showing you a bit of the work that's been done by our very hardworking crew of volunteers from various different organizations led by the Utica and Mohawk Valley chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. Also its allied groups, friends, etc., such as the Mohawk, Adirondack and Northern Railroad, the Adirondack Railway Preservation Society, and other groups located within the Adirondack Park.
The lands of the New York State Forest Preserve are significant because they are forever wild by constitutional statute, and natural processes are allowed to take place with minimum disturbance. The Forest Preserve was created on May 15th of 1885 by a law which stated that all the lands now owned or which may hereafter be acquired by the state of New York shall be forever kept as wild forest lands. That mandate is now Article 14 of the New York State Constitution. The Adirondack Park in upstate New York was established in 1892, and today it is about 1/5 of the total area of the state. The park contains around 6 million acres composed of both public forest preserve and privately owned lands. The park has a unique blend of dense forests, steep and rugged mountains, wetlands, lakes, ponds, and rivers. Nowhere else east of the Mississippi can you find a larger area existing in a natural state. Within the blue line, as the bounds of the park are known, exists a diversity of mammals, trees, nesting birds, reptiles, amphibians, mosses, and fishes, with the varied ecosystems in which they live. In 1890, a wealthy businessman envisioned the value of a rail line running northerly from the Mohawk Valley through the wilds of the Adirondacks. It was then that William Seward Webb financed a railroad into the Adirondack wilderness. Construction on the Adirondack Division began in 1890, and service began in 1892. Scheduled passenger service dwindled and finally ended in 1965. And freight service stopped in 1972. The line was abandoned in 1976 after the acquisition by the state of New York 1 year earlier to preserve a transportation asset through the heart of the Adirondacks. The line has been dormant except for a short time when the Adirondack Railway Corporation provided passenger service for the 1980 Winter Olympic Games in Lake Placid. Finally, the New York State Departments of Transportation and Environmental Conservation regained control of the abandoned railroad when the state was the successful bidder at the line's auction in 1991. Meetings of a state task force with the public and with a citizens advisory committee during 1992 were a prelude to the drafting of a management plan for the old rail corridor. This happened nearly 100 years after Dr. Webb built his railroad. The Adirondack Railroad Corridor is a 118-mile, generally 100-foot wide right-of-way which starts at Snow Junction north of Remsen in Oneida County and runs through the counties of Herkimer, Hamilton, St. Lawrence, and Franklin to the hamlet of Lake Placid in Essex County. Historically, the trains of the Grand Adirondack Line rolled through scenic locations like Cayuga Lake, the Moose River near McKeever, the high trestle over scenic Twitchell Creek, the unique Stillwater area, the remote beauty of Beaver River country, and the Racket River area. The New York State Forest Preserve became 100 years old in 1985. 7 years later, the Adirondack Park entered its centennial, coincident with the centennial of the Adirondack Railroad. During that 100th year in Webb Township of Herkimer County, at a railroad station in the small hamlet of Thendara, a little magic happened, and for many people, a 12-year-old dream was about to be realized.
12 years now, no trains have been, no Adirondack rails have been run since then. But isn't great, now everything's fine. Engine Elko 5 is on the line. Running from Thendara with her passengers load, Adirondack Centennial, a railroad.
It was July 3rd, 1992, on a bleak and rainy afternoon. Through the efforts of members of the Utica and Mohawk Valley chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, Adirondack Railroad history was in the making. The Conrail deadhead move of rolling stock for the Adirondack Centennial Railroad rolled over area tracks on the way to Snow Junction.
To journey on the rails once more really would be fine. Just one more chance to ride again on the Grand Adirondack line.
On arrival at historic Snow Junction, the Centennial train was unhooked from the Conrail escort. The lead Centennial locomotive was former Elko plant switcher S1 number 5, followed by previous Hercules Powder Company EMD SW1. These were the locomotives that would carry passengers for the next few months in celebration of the 2 Adirondack Centennials. 2 passenger coaches, purchased from the Montreal commuter service, completed the consist. This train would return active railroading to the defunct Adirondack Division. Elko 5 idled patiently as safety checks were made prior to the trip to the Adirondack mountain hamlet of Thendara, nearly 30 miles to the north. Soon the train rolled out of Snow Junction, onward toward the North Country. Up ahead, a small contingent of rail fans waited for the big moment. Down the line, they saw the glow of an approaching light, and they knew it was true. There was a train on the Adirondack line once again. Soon, the high rail escort trucks rolled over old Route 12, followed by the Centennial consist, which crossed and proceeded on its way. folks were waiting at Cayuga Lake to witness the rare view of a train crossing over the lake's impressive trestle. Onward they rolled, pausing briefly at Forestport Station. It was dusk as the train proceeded through Woodgate. As darkness descended, the journey continued through the Forest Preserve and Otter Lake. Slowly, the train proceeded on its maiden voyage through the dark and windy, rain-soaked forest. Stopping briefly at Minnehaha to pick up the first passengers on the Adirondack Centennial Railroad. Just before midnight, the excitement peaked as the Centennial train reached the Thendara station. After a sleepless night spent cleaning the coaches, the train rolled out of Thendara at 11 o'clock on the morning of July 4th, 1992, as promised. The 87 passengers carried on this first tourist run gave little insight as to what would happen in the days ahead. Before closing for the season, the Adirondack Centennial Railroad would haul 62,526 adults and children along the scenic Moose River. The following all-season rail ride shows that the 4-mile section of track lying between the Thendara station and Minnehaha is an excellent introduction to the beauty of the Adirondack Park. All aboard for a ride on the Adirondack Centennial Railroad.
Ready for breakdown.
Shortly after leaving the station, the Moose River widens into an area of still water at a scenic location known as the Lock and Dam. This historic structure was constructed around 1860 to impound enough water for the little steamboat Fawn to carry mail and passengers on the Moose River between Minnehaha and Fulton Chain. Most of the ride gives the passengers a sense of oneness with the surrounding forest as the train rolls through the scenic woodlands which come quite close to the rails. Wetlands and views of the middle branch of the Moose River also add interest to the ride. Two rock cuts on the trip give the ride a touch of historical interest if you think of how they were laid out by Dr. Webb's surveyors in the late 1880s. With the exception of a few enlargements and fortifications, the line is the same today as Dr. Webb saw it through the windows of his private train Nahasny over a century ago. The locomotive stops near Minnehaha, reverses direction, and pushes the passenger coaches back to Thendara for the return leg of the rail ride.
Run, Hercules, run down the Adirondack line. Run through the forest dark, maples, spruce, and pine. Run those cars to Thendara, now don't you be late. More folks want to ride the Centennial line, Hercules 68.
On August 23rd, the Adirondack Centennial Railroad doubled its passenger capacity by adding 2 more coaches to keep up with the ridership demand. Using the backup locomotive EMD Hercules 68, the additional Canadian coaches were picked up at Snow Junction and delivered to Thendara on a beautiful summer afternoon. After a lash-up with Alco 5 at Minnehaha, the train proceeded to Thendara for yet another tourist run. August 25th at Forestport Station, the start of the Adirondack Centennial Railroad's Dignitary Run, a demonstration rail ride for invited dignitaries, politicians, and the media. Some great photos could be had as the Adirondack train made run-bys over local trestles. On September 11th, Thendara was the scene of preparations for a nighttime photo session. On a quiet September morning before the first passengers arrived, General Manager Porter Collins and his crew of volunteers started work on the necessary maintenance tasks and safety checks that were required for the upcoming busy day. When the necessary work was completed, the locomotive was started for the day's run. It wasn't long before people started gathering for the 11 o'clock train ride, and another Adirondack Centennial Railroad Day was about to begin. October 4th was the Town of Webb Community Appreciation Day, and all profits went to area charities.
And once again, welcome to everyone. Enjoy your stay in Thendara, and a special thanks to all of the members, the volunteers of the Utica Mohawk Valley chapter of the National Railway Historic Society.
October 31st, there were donuts and cider, those in costume rode for half fare, and a gigantic bee rode the Adirondack Centennial Railroad's Halloween Express.
with engine 5. We cleared the station. We're on our way. Over.
With the Adirondack Railway Corporation, leasing the property to them for 30 years. After rehabilitating the line, the Adirondack...
What's buzzing, cousin?
When you go to Thendara, you're bound to see Sam laying round the vicinity, wearing his kerchief of blue or red. You can see by his size that he's well fed. Sam, Sam, the railroad cat, sitting in the station on a railroad hat. A pretty neat guy, we've got to say, guarding the trains while sleeping all day.
The snows of November provide a scenic delight as weekend rail rides thrill the passengers with delicate winter etchings.
Engine 68, everything is clear at the north end, over.
Roger, engine 68, looking clear ahead. Thank you.
About 2 car lengths to the crossing.
Roger.
November 28th, all aboard the Santa Claus Special. Come one, come all, and join the singing and festivities as the onset of the holiday season signals the pending finale of the Centennial Railroad year.
What's your name?
Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Come in our gay apparel, fa la 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 la
There was a sadness mixed with the joy of the holiday season as the final rail ride occurred on the afternoon of November 29th. Amid caroling and friendship, A feeling of grand accomplishment was tempered by a sense of sorrow, for very soon trains would again cease to run on the Grand Adirondack Line.
Last run of the Adirondack Railroad.
On November 30th, 1992, at Snow Junction where it all began, the Adirondack Centennial Railroad year came to a close. In an historic meeting with the Mohawk, Adirondack, and Northern Railroad, the Centennial crew delivered Alqua No. 5 and picked up 2 additional commuter cars for use next season. Thendara-mini-ha and back again. Thendara-mini-ha and back again. We rode the rails of the Grand Adirondack line. Rode the rails of the Grand Adirondack line. Because of the gracious volunteers so fine. Well, they're in from Thendara with a passenger load. Adirondack Centennial, a railroad. Yes, they'll run again with a passenger load. Adirondack Centennial, a railroad.
It's interesting what happened with our ridership was that Northwest Engineering out of Pennsylvania originally did a study for the Adirondack North Country Association, and they expected or projected that we'd have 12,000 passengers, or just over 12,000 passengers in the first year of operation. We have done over 5 times that amount of business. I think that this quite clearly, quite graphically shows that the general public generally likes trains and generally likes trains in the Adirondacks. I think it showed that there's a lot more support and interest in this railroad as a railroad than anyone had known before.
I'm standing next to number 5, which was our stalwart this year. She's a good old girl, and we think quite a lot of her. We're running with the 68 right now, just to blow the dirt out of the second locomotive. Over my shoulder there, you can see the new engine house. All the good folks that bought tickets this year are enabling us to build this engine house so we can do work over the winter and make this a bigger and perhaps better and perhaps more comfortable railroad next year. And we thank all those good folks that have ridden this railroad, and we hope there'll be a lot more that want to come and ride us also.
You know, there's just something about trains that seem to just make people happy. I don't know. The little children, it's like they just can't wait to ride on that great big train. And the older people, well, for them, I think that they're reliving something from their youth. They tell me about the trip that they took when they were in the service on a troop train. They tell me where they went on their honeymoon and what train they took to get there, and sometimes they even remember what they had to eat on a given train in the diner. They tell me all these memories, and when they ride our little train, I think they relive a little bit of that. And then there are other people who, they've never been on a train before, and for them, I think it's something a little different. I think it's something that it's a little piece of nostalgia. It makes them feel relaxed. It's as if they're stepping back into a time that they perceive as, well, a little slower, a little more relaxed, a little more elegant. You know, the days before microwaves and fast food and all that. They feel as if they're living a little bit of that. And I don't know, that's what makes this a real fun place to work and a real fun place to be, because the trains seem to make people happy, and then the people seem to make me happy.
Well, after I got through punching all the tickets, I would go around and ask each passenger their zip codes. And we had zip codes from all over the United States except from Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. We've also had visitors from Canada, England, Germany, France. We had a family from Arabia. We had a couple from South America. And we had a couple who were celebrating their 50th anniversary from New Zealand. They love the train. It brings back a lot of memories to them. And they was telling about how their grandparents or their great uncles used to work on the train as engineers or conductors, and it was bringing a lot of memories back to them. And they wish they was around so that they could ride the train again. A lot of the kids were It was the first time they ever rode on a train. In fact, we had one lady who had a great-grandson. She said he was 6 years old, and she was 94 years old, and it was their first time they rode on a train, and they was from Milwaukee. A couple weeks ago, we've had two boys. They was around 6 and 7 years old. They had the Daniel Boom hats on, and they were from California, and it's the first time they ever saw snow. And they got off the train, and they had a great time throwing snow at each other.
Welcome to the Adirondack Centennial Railroad gift shop. The gift shop, along with the train, opened in July or July 4th of this year. And we've been open about 4 or 5 months now. The gift shop features a variety of material that is kind of historic and educational. We have things that commemorate many of the old line railroads, Delaware and Hudson, New York Central, many of the other famous railroads from around the country. We carry books, postcards of many famous trains. The gift shop has been well accepted by our 62,000 passengers. We've had an absolute banner year here in the gift shop. We've exceeded any and all expectations.
One of the things that's really surprising is that all the people that come in and tell me, my daddy worked on the railroad. I must have heard that 25,000 times this season. And, well, sometimes maybe you got just a tad tired of hearing it, but when you began to think about it, you realize that it was the railroads that built this country, and that's what these people are telling me, that their parents, their granddad, their uncle were a part of that. And they want to ride the train. It makes them feel a little bit a part of their heritage as well. And so I guess that's the thing that I hear the most is, my daddy worked on the railroad. This is Sam. He is the Adirondack Centennial Railroad cat. And when we first brought him here this season, I thought that he would just be sort of clinging to the chandeliers, hiding. But no, he's taken to it real well, and I think he's been one of the more popular attractions here at the Adirondack Centennial Railroad. He has had his picture taken more times than the engineer. And people come and they say, we heard there's a railroad cat, where is he? And we have to go find him and let them pet him. And he's wearing his little, oh now stop it now. He's wearing his little bandana, and he's really been pretty cool here this summer, haven't you, Sam?
I'm Doug Ellison. I'm the general manager of the Adirondack Centennial Railroad for the 1993 season. And for this year, we have several new improvements. We have a 6-car train now with a capacity for approximately 500 people. And hopefully that will alleviate some of the bottlenecks we had last year and provide for a more comfortable and enjoyable experience on our railroad. Also new for this year will be locomotive number 8223. The 8223 is a 1952 Alco-built Model RS3. It will supplement locomotive 68, the Hercules, and good old number 5, which is also due back this year. We're completely handicap accessible. We have a handicap ramp for entrance into the museum and station area, where we also have our gift shop. We have a wheelchair lift, which will provide wheelchair access to our train for handicapped and disabled personnel. An added treat this year will be an extension of our ride from last year. We'll go approximately 1,500 feet further south, and that will include a spectacular ride over the middle branch of the Moose River. This is our second year of operation on the railroad, and it's made possible by our many dedicated volunteers, many of whom have taken extended training and safety classes this year to be better able to perform their spectacular jobs. And we'd like to thank the many people, over 62,500, who rode this operation last year. Thanks also go out to the New York State DOT and DEC for letting us do this again a second year. This summer, why not take a few moments and come on up and take a ride with us? The round trip takes only 1 hour, and tickets are reasonably priced at $5 for adults, $3 for children, and we encourage groups. We have special group rates. So come on up, take in the scenery, and have a nice, enjoyable, and relaxful afternoon.
Don't be afraid to come up, take a nice ride. The scenery is very nice along the Moose River. And our riders range from 3 weeks up to age 94. They walk on, they come on crutches, they come with canes, they come with walkers, and they come on with wheelchairs.
One of the things we're doing with the funds that we've generated this year is we're going to be filling a washout approximately 1.5 miles up the tracks from where I'm standing at the present time. It's right behind the Thendara golf course, and we will be assisting our good friends at the Adirondack Railway Preservation Society, headed up by Mr. Harris Dexter, to fill this washout and do it by all the proper means and all the proper legal arrangements and so forth, permits, etc., to show the state of New York that somebody can do this thing and basically put the track back and show this, to hold this up, if you will, as an example project or demonstration project to the various environmental groups and so forth, that an active railroad is not something for them to be afraid of or concerned about. Also, we are putting approximately 1/4 of what we made entirely back into our track structure to do gauging, tamping, add some ties, various other things that our track structure needs, tightening bolts, etc. Also, if we are able to do so, if all the different pieces come together, we will be able to haul canoes next year. We've had a local canoe outfitter from Old Forge offer to handle canoes. In other words, you would canoe from his dock down the middle branch of the Moose River to a place called Minnehaha, which is approximately the south end of our line, and haul your canoe out of the Moose River and up the bank and onto our baggage car and back up to the station. We are working hand in hand with another organization called the Adirondack Railway Preservation and assisting them with the funds that we generate here to help them with their projects of stabilizing the rest of the roadbed. Such things as cleaning culverts, fill a few little washouts here and there, do some brush cutting, and make people know generally that the dream is not dead, it's just kind of slumbering, so to speak. The amount of support that came forward when we started to put this project together was phenomenal. And at the end of the season in '92, we tried to put together a list of the different people who had done various things to make the Adirondack Centennial Railroad run and to support the overall future renovation of the Adirondack Rail Line. And so far, the list came up to over 60 people that has in some way, shape, form, or manner volunteered their time. This does not even include those who have donated money, those that have done work below cost and so forth. And so if you really look at it, you'd say there's probably more like 100 different individuals out there who have in some way, shape, form, or manner helped make this train run. And I think that's quite significant, that people should take a look at the amount of interest that's been shown by so many people to make this work. It isn't 1 or 2 people here or there, but a broad range of people. Many people that none of whom knew each other before we ever started this project. People from Auburn, Albany, Malone, Binghamton, Norwich, all over the state of New York have come forward to make the Adirondack Centennial Railroad run. We've had visitors from 44 different states and 6 different foreign countries, like Netherlands, England, obviously Canada, our good neighbors to the north, and so forth. Again, showing the kind of interest there is in the Adirondack Park generally, and in seeing it in a way that is environmentally friendly.
The Adirondack Railroad is 100 years old this year. Help us celebrate and preserve this beautiful route through the Adirondack Park by riding the Adirondack Centennial Railroad. This one-hour trip follows the rustic Moose River in open-air coaches. What a delightful way for the whole family to view the fall foliage. Trains depart Thendara Station near Old Forge at 11, 12:30, 2, and 3:30 every day except Tuesday. Bring the whole family along to enjoy this unique adventure, a project of the Utica and Mohawk Valley chapter of the National Railway Historical Society.
Listen up, folks, I have some news to tell. The Adirondack line, she's alive and well. It was raining on July 3rd of '92 as engine number 5 waited for her cue. It was at Snow Junction on a Friday afternoon. Adirondack history would unfold soon. A blow of her whistle, the ring of her bell, Alpha 5 roared to life with a railroader's yell. 12 years now, no trains have been, no Adirondack rails have been run since then. But isn't it great now, everything's fine, 'cause engine Elko 5 is on the line. Running from Thendara with a passenger load, Adirondack Centennial, a railroad. She rolled on northward from Snow Junction track with another engine and 2 cars at her back. On high Utica trestle rolling on her way. What a wonderful sight to see that day. At Forestport Station many folks did see that Adirondack train making history, rolling northward towards her destination, the 4th of July at Thendara Station. 12 years now, no trains have been, no Adirondack rails have been run since then. But isn't it great now, everything's fine, engine Elko 5 is on the line. Running from Thendara with her passenger load, Adirondack Centennial, a railroad. Dusk approached, Woodgate was passed through, Otter Lake and then McKeever too. At Minnehaha in the dark and the rain, a few token passengers boarded the train. About midnight that first trip was done, engine number 5 had completed her run. All at Thendara were filled with elation. The Centennial train rolled into the station. 12 years now, no trains have been, no Adirondack rails have been run since then. But isn't it great now, everything's fine, engine Elko 5 is on the line. Running from Thendara with her passenger load, Adirondack Centennial, a railroad.